Hey gorgeous souls, hope you're having a great day, and of course jumping in with boundaries today. Boundaries can often I'm just laughing at the way I said boundaries, sorry. Boundaries can often be hugely challenging, particularly if you are sensitive, you're an empath, or you just have a super big caring heart. Also, boundaries can be very difficult if you've experienced any form of childhood trauma or you felt responsible for the adults in your life growing up. This can be an exceptional challenge in our life when we've experienced any of these things. And like I mentioned, when you are particularly sensitive to other people's energy, often we are not taught how to actually be able to discern what is ours and what is somebody else's. If you're sensitive, if you care deeply about others, hey Helen, great to have you on, honey, then it can be very challenging to know what we're experiencing and to feel whether our own emotions are our own or not. And through human design, there's quite a few different things there that can be playing out. Sometimes we can have what is called an undefined or an open emotional solar plexus, meaning that we take in and we amplify other people's energies in our own system. And this can be very confusing. I know that I was like 22, 23, before I realized that what I was actually experiencing wasn't necessarily mine. And you can imagine how confusing for a child that is. And this, you may relate to this for yourself, or you may have a child that actually takes in the energies of the family and amplifies that energy. And often they can be seen sometimes as the problem child or the too emotional child, or, they're just too sensitive, or things like that as well. So again, all of these things can really impact the way that we experience life and our ability to be able to discern what is ours and what is somebody else's. And by that I mean, what their feelings are, what their thoughts are sometimes, and who is actually responsible for what's going on or for who's feeling what. That can be very difficult. Now, boundaries is in fact 100% your own responsibility. Often we can feel, well, other people don't respect my time, other people don't respect my boundaries, other people don't respect my resources, or I'm always happening to, and we end up taking over responsibility for others. Now, when we take over responsibility for others, but then blame them for it, guess what's actually happening? We are totally not taking responsibility for ourselves, for our own well-being, and we may have a million different beliefs as to why that's happening. Well, if I don't take care of it, nobody else is there for them. Or if I don't do this, the whole thing's going to fall apart. And often we take over responsibility for others because it helps in some way, shape or form to maintain an illusion of control. And it is in fact an illusion of control, because when we try to step in and take responsibility for others, for how they're feeling, for what's going on for them, clearly they're responsible for their own life. Clearly, we don't have control over what they feel, what they think, what they believe, what is the action that they're going to take. And if you are even slightly aware that your thoughts create a feeling, and that feeling often instigates an action, whether that be a positive or negative behavior or action, and that action always creates an outcome or a result, again, be it positive or negative, we know that we are not in charge of somebody else's responsibilities, like how or what they're actually doing with their own life. But when we keep stepping in but blaming them for it, then we keep enabling the same behavior and the same dynamic pattern to show up in our own life, often causing resentment, anger, frustration, or just purely overgiving. And if you're a woman, I really feel, and this can happen certainly with men as well, but I really feel, women, certainly in my experience, we're raised by society or socialized in society to be the good girl, to be the pleaser, to be the one that's always there for others or to take care of others. And we, in fact, get a lot of praise and a lot of love and a lot of appreciation and a lot of validation for being that way. So it becomes very, very difficult to let go of some of those behaviors and to move away from that, or to step back from people pleasing, or to let go of taking responsibility for others. And in fact, we can feel like we're being unloving. And the worst thing that we ever want to be perceived as, which is another reason that blocks us in this particular area, is because we never want to be seen as selfish or uncaring. And I know for me personally, like I had to really overcome, it was kind of like a lose-lose situation where I'd overgive, and I felt, perhaps, anger or resentment, particularly if I was very exhausted at the time and I didn't have much left in me to give. But then I would hate myself if I didn't give. So I felt like I couldn't win in either situation. And this is where our boundaries become very, very blurred, and we can end up blaming others for breaking those boundaries or for not respecting those boundaries. Boundaries are just simply, they're not this big fence that you want to put up to keep everybody out. Boundaries are that which feels good for you. And so a boundary could be, I choose to instill, eating healthy in my life because that's what feels really good for me. It's what nourishes me. It helps me thrive. It helps me be in the best energetic space possible. Another boundary for me would be I choose not to spend a lot of time with people that are negative, or that gossip a lot about other people. It just doesn't feel good in my system. It doesn't feel good to me. And again, it's not that I, push people away or are negative towards them or resent them or anything else. That's in fact what we end up doing if we don't know how to keep our own boundaries or how to address these particular things in our life as well. Other boundaries can be, how you utilize your time or how you allow your time to be utilized by others. Are you respectful of your own time? Do you value your own time? Or do you constantly let go of what's important to you in order to take care of others, or somebody else's agenda pulls you off your own track where you're not making the progress or doing the things that's right for you in your own life and what it is that you want to create or achieve in your own life. So getting clear on your boundaries is really looking at what are my needs as a person, physically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually, and financially, and even from a perspective of what do I love, or how do I want to spend and create my life, and getting really clear on that, and then living into that and creating that for yourself. And when somebody violates that, again, we can choose to have a conversation around that. Or if we step into, not taking responsibility for our life, we will blame the other person and think that it's all on them or they don't respect my boundaries. But again, it's kind of like walking into a backyard. If the dog bites you once, fair call, not your fault. And this is not about fault or blame or anything else. But if you choose to walk back into that same yard again and get bit by the dog again, we have to have a look at ourselves and go, hang on a second, what's really going on here? And to address those things and to take responsibility for our own well-being in choosing not to go back into the yard or choosing not to place ourselves back in those situations. And that's where healing ourselves, understanding how we've attracted these situations into our life. Perhaps if you are finding boundaries very difficult to maintain, to get clear on, to know even what is your own personal boundary for yourself, and to be able to set you free from these things and to be able to draw these clear lines in your life that feel supportive and nurturing for you to show up and be the best version of who you are, then please send me a PM. Reach out, because often these can go back into deep traumas, situations and beliefs, and particularly emotions that have us continually abandoning ourselves in order to please others, to fit in, belong. That is our deepest need from our ego survival mind. And the challenge with that is our heart often wants to live into this beautiful, huge, big life of creating all of these amazing dreams and living this large, wonderful life, being fully yourself and embracing that within you. And the ego mind is like, oh my gosh, we need to fit in, we need to be accepted, we need to not rock the boat, we need to make sure that we're keeping everybody else around us happy. And often this is where we violate our own boundaries by giving ourselves away or by abandoning ourselves in order to have loyalty or to be accepted, fit in with somebody else. And it's always, you know, a huge self-betrayal when we do that, and A, when we're not clear on that, and B, when we don't know how to maintain that. So like I said, send me a message if this is you. Let's have a conversation and see if and how I may be able to help you moving forward. And if this has been valuable to you, if you have some beautiful women in your life that you know are struggling with their own boundaries, or perhaps, you know, it's a topic that you might want to start raising, particularly with your teenage girls. If you have teenage girls, it's a very, very important topic that they're clear on what their own boundaries are, what is and isn't okay for them, and that you start setting that as a role model for them. Our kids are watching us every single day, and perhaps, you know, if you don't have children, that might be nieces, or that could be other loved ones around you, or perhaps you know, your sister, a friend, a mum, you know, anybody else in your life that you know could really, really have some support in this particular area. Really, really essential that we are aware of it, and particularly, like I mentioned, if we have experienced trauma in this area, or trauma just to, you know, needing to stay safe in some way, shape or form, which, you know, if I redefine trauma is not necessarily, and this is not to minimize, of course, anybody that's been through huge amounts of childhood trauma, but it is also really understanding trauma is registered as anything that makes us feel or question our devalue, you know, feeling devalued in ourselves, feeling that we don't fit in, that we don't belong, that we're not accepted fully for who we are. All of those register literally as trauma on the brain, and they keep us in a pattern of reaction, and keep attracting these same situations and these same patterns in our life again, because the body is trying to find a way to change this situation and to heal this situation. So it's kind of like we keep attracting the same thing until we learn what it is that we need to transform and heal within ourselves, so we're no longer a magnet for those situations as well. So it's very, very vitally important. Hey Bev, great to have you on, darling. In these situations, to really understand what's going on at the deeper level and how we can transform this moving forward as well. So sending you all loads of love. Have an amazing day. Practice gratitude as always. And yes, look forward to seeing you on my next live. And like I mentioned, if this has been helpful, please like, love or share it, particularly with other women in your life, that, you know, let's really start raising consciousness and raising levels of awareness in these areas by sharing this information and really understanding personally what your own boundaries are, and being clear on that, and practicing setting those standards with others as well, and communicating those effectively. Have an amazing day. Bye for now.